Friedge, hello, first of all, and second of all, how is the vibe on the hockey side?
What are you doing with your face? What is that? What are you doing?
What's that? I'm listening.
Yeah, you're good. Oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, he had like an eyebrow up. It was like a Spockian eyebrow.
Looking good, man.
Can I just cut everybody off
Please,
for a second?
please.
I was a little late coming to the set, Friedge, because there was a guy upstairs cutting hair. And I said, can I sneak in there real quick? And he says, I don't know, I got Elliotte Friedman right now. And I'm like, you cut Elliotte Friedman's hair? I'm not sure I want you to cut my hair anymore.
He cut our hair today too.
You know what the good news is, Nick, is that you took so much time and he couldn't go down here, so I got this live flow for one more night.
You look great. You look great.
It's so good.
By the way, Nick, congratulations. I wanted to say on your Toronto Star sports rating.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
big, man. Congratulations.
Author, writer.
Add that to the
We'll see how long that lasts.
How you feeling, Friedge? What's going on over on the hockey side?
Well, I hope I feel good. It's only been one night into the season. If I felt terrible now, it would be a disaster. No, I'm really excited for tonight. I'm looking forward to these two games. We've had the European opening, we've had the American opening, and now we get the Canadian opening. And my only disappointment is I wish it was here. That one of the most fun things to do is go to morning skate on the first day of the season, and I'm a little bit jealous of all those people who got to do it in Montreal today.
I want to start with the Oilers and the Canucks. We just heard Gene Principe talk, and I listened to the podcast, 32 Thoughts, and there's whispers of Connor McDavid wanting to be more of a scorer this season. And part of it comes from Leon Draisaitl saying, he thinks McDavid should be a little bit more selfish. Do you see that as something that is actually going to transpire? Because it has been talked about in years past. But are we finally going to get the year where McDavid decides he wants to score a lot more?
Yeah, I think it can, because I think it makes him even more of a dangerous player. Sidney Crosby was a guy at the beginning of his career. They told him that he would have to reach a point where he would have to become a more selfish player, but nobody calls him selfish. Jason Spezza was another guy who was always known as a passer, but he was a great shooter. He could really fire the puck, and people told him he had to shoot more because it was getting a little easier to defend him. And I think Connor McDavid could easily score 50, if not 60. I mean, he can score as many goals as he wants, guys. We all know that. And I don't think anybody's going to knock him as too selfish if he does it. I think it's just part of his evolution to becoming a more dangerous player, and I can see him scoring 50 no problem if he wants to.
Kipper brought up the point when we were talking about Auston Matthews that he might have to go the other way. Instead of focusing on simply being the goal scorer, being the guy that helps the others around him get better. Do you think, like Kipper said, that's the next step for an Auston Matthews? Because how do you evolve after scoring 60 plus in the season, right?
You score 70. That's how you evolve. Obviously, I think other teams have to be prepared for you to do anything. But when Bruce Boudreau, who you guys were showing before with Gino and talking about before, when he coached Alexander Ovechkin, he always used to say, our best offense is a shot off Ovechkin's stick. So I have no problem with he would say he could shoot 25 times a game. He wouldn't have a problem with it. I think Matthews has no problem with being a passer if he needs to be. I think he's very good at anything he wants to do. But Toronto's best offense is still a shot off Auston Matthews' stick.
But when we're talking about superstars, there's only one in the league that really is taking his game to another level when it comes to 1-on-4. It just seemed like last year that was another level where other players wouldn't dream of it. It became almost a club in his bag that he could pull out at any time. And I'm just wondering now, will we see more? Will we see less? Will we see teams closing in on him sooner? Will that open up more of an opportunity for others? How do you see this thing evolving?
You know what, Nick? You play with a lot of, you played in the age of Gretzky. You played in the age of Yager. You played in the age of Lemieux. Matthews is, like, he's one of the greats, and so is McDavid, just on the sense that there's a lot of things you can do to them, but they're still going to score just because of who they are. And I think teams will try to defend Matthews and McDavid differently. They should. I just don't know if it's humanly possible. I think that Matthews is the kind of guy who's going to score a ton of goals no matter what you do to him, just because of who he is and the offense they can create. I think you always have to evolve. I think you always have to do new things. One of the things that made Crosby great was, in his first year, he was not great at faceoffs, and he said, I'm going to become great at faceoffs, and he did. And eventually he said, I'm going to score more because people defend me different because I passed too much, and he did. I think the great players can always find another level, and they're unstoppable. And I think Matthews is one of those guys, and so is McDavid, and so is Draisaitl.
Friedge, there's a bunch of teams here, Canadian teams included. I look at the Sens and the Canucks, and then the American teams. You have the Devils, the Red Wings, the Kraken. There are teams that should make a jump, that I think their fan bases and their front offices are waiting for them to make a jump. Of those teams that should take it to the next level, is there one that you specifically have an eye on?
I think I would say New Jersey is a team that really believes it should take a jump this year, and I think they would be really disappointed if they didn't. That would be one team. I think Ottawa is absolutely a team that believes it's going to take a jump this year and be disappointed if it didn't. I think Detroit and Buffalo are two more. And, in the Western Conference, the one team I'm really curious about, and I've talked about this a little bit in the last few days, is Winnipeg. Yeah. And the reason is Winnipeg didn't make a lot of lineup changes, so they decided to go after it a different way. They changed their system, and they're trying to say, look, the things that some players were able to do before, they're not going to be able to do anymore. And, Rick Bowness already went after his best players for shift length. There's a big debate in sports about how much a coach matters. I think teams like Winnipeg and the Islanders are going to put that to the test this year because they didn't have great years last year. They wanted to make changes. They didn't make a ton on ice. So what they're going to try to do is change things in the way they play and the way they do things. And who's getting fined for having their phone go off on the set?
You can guess. You can guess.
I feel like a rookie all over.
We are not important, Jesse and I. There's one important person
Elliotte,
for the three of us right now.
Elliotte, in 12 to 18 months, you won't even recognize the Winnipeg Jets roster.
Really?
You're going to be a busy guy figuring out
Wait a sec.
where everybody goes.
You've got a radio show. You've got Twitter. You've got a column now. You've got to be busy, too. It's not just for me.
Yeah. I think that the writing's on the wall on where they're headed.
Listen,
major makeover.
Not the worst season to be pretty bad, Elliotte. You wrote about it like there's a pretty big prize at the end of it if you do end up with that first overall pick. It's going to happen in the NBA. It might happen in the NHL as well.
Never mind might, Faizal.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I'm just trying to be politically correct here.
There's no need to be politically correct on this show. Tim's not there to
Fair enough.
knock you down. You can do whatever you want. Look, those Chicago-Arizona games this year, if I was the Blackhawks, I wouldn't even dress Taves and Kane. I'd just say, you know what, you guys are not playing tonight. And look, those two teams, they're open and honest about it. That's what they're going for. Connor Bedard. I think there's going to be some other teams that maybe aren't great, but they've kind of separated themselves from the pack a bit. And he's worth it. I think he's got 15 points in his first 8 games. Everybody's seen him internationally when he's played again best-on-best competitions for his age. And teams are going for it. They're not shy about it. They're going for it.
Can we add Montreal to that too?
I think Montreal, I think, yes. The short answer is yes, Nick. And I wonder about Philly, too. Like, how good is Philly going to be? But Montreal, I think, is not trying to do it on the same level that Chicago and Arizona are.
Friedge, bigger phenom, Connor Bedard or Victor Wembanyama?
I just think in basketball, it's easier for one guy to have a bigger impact because it's true. 5 guys on a team at a time. I'd say I watched the highlights of that guy last week. He is unbelievable. Like, Bedard is incredible. That guy is unbelievable.
It's ridiculous to watch. Hey, thanks so much for joining us, Friedge, and enjoy the night show.
Looking great, Friedge.
You know what, Nick? I just want to acknowledge the one text I got while I was on the air saying, getting rid of the bad suits early.
No, I think you should wear just that. Right. I don't even want you to put on a blazer. That looks great.
I love this one. I love this one.
Good friends. Thanks, Friedge. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Take care.